Hi friends, welcome to today's Daily Pattern. My name's Paul. Today's passage is from Acts chapter 9 verses 10 to 19. And in this small chunk of Bible there's so much going on. A guy called Ananias gets a vision of God in which he's told to go and meet probably the most dangerous man in his world at that time. A known persecutor of Christians, Saul, who we know as St. Paul the Apostle, but whose current story involves murderous threats against Christians. Ananias does a bit of, "You want me to do what?" but ultimately is obedient to God and goes to meet this guy, lays his hands on him, and Saul the murderer becomes St. Paul pretty much on the spot. It says, "Suddenly something like fish scales fell from Saul's eyes and he could see. He got up and was baptized. Then he ate and felt much better." And with all that going on, you know what jumps out at me? It's the food in that verse. And not just the food, but the fact that Paul had got up as Saul, but blind, then had this massive life-changing encounter, and in that moment he gets baptized, before he's had breakfast. In fact, it says he hasn't eaten for 3 days. Now, there's not much that usually gets in between me opening my eyes and eating something, but this man not only has an entire 180-degree change in perspective, life trajectory, attitude, but he marks it with baptism and then he eats. In the New Testament, the main image behind baptism is of death, burial and resurrection. It's about putting your old life behind you and making that permanent. And the new life you have is as an adopted child of God. You're part of the family. The Bible doesn't tell us why Paul hadn't eaten. My guess is that he was unable to move on into his new life until he buried his old one. And so this passage is speaking to me about two things: baptism and line drawing. Firstly, baptism. Sometimes people say things like, "I'm not ready for baptism. I've only been a Christian a year or so." Paul had been a Christian for less than an hour, but he did it. If Jesus has changed your life, why not take the plunge, as it were? You'll have to forgive me for that one. Line drawing. It's never too late to say goodbye to our old selves, to draw a line under it. Paul writes later that if anyone is in Christ, he's a new creation. The old has gone, the new has come. He also says, "I've been crucified with Christ and no longer live, but Christ lives in me." Paul is the expert in line drawing. Saul became St. Paul by leaving his mistake and brokenness behind. So let's follow his example. What from our old lives is hanging around when it should be gone? Let's draw a line under the old and begin living the new. See you next time.